2024, guess what? In Louisiana, the state Supreme Court there is allowing a largely white community to break apart and separate from the city of Baton Rouge to create their own city. This has been a 6-year effort by folks there. On Friday, the Supreme Court granted the formation of the predominantly white city of St. George, which will be separate from Baton Rouge. The ruling is sparking concerns about segregation. Activist Gary Chambers posted a video talking about this here. He joins us now from Baton Rouge. Gary, glad to have you here. You made clear, Gary, that this was a very organized effort by a handful of people with a lot of money to achieve the creation of their own city. Walk folks through how this happened.
So, Roland, we have a man named Norman Browning who organizes a group of about 10 people that decide they want a new school district because they don't want their kids to go to the schools of Baton Rouge. Keep in mind, Baton Rouge is the city that had the longest desegregation lawsuit in America. We didn't finish that lawsuit until the 90s. And so when you look at the conversation around people wanting a new school district, these are people who ultimately don't want their kids to go to school with black kids. Currently, the school district in Baton Rouge is 80% black, even though the city is 56% black. So white parents in Baton Rouge right now, for the most part, do not send their kids to public schools in Baton Rouge. As a result of not getting that school district, these folks then decided to try to start a city. They failed the first time because the city was, I think at that time, going to be 60% white. They went back, cut out black neighborhoods, cut out black apartment complexes, made the municipality smaller, put it back on the ballot, and got it passed by a vote of 17,000 people. The vote of 17,000 now impacts 400,000 people who live in East Baton Rouge Parish because of the general fund, that's $1 billion of city parish money. 300 million of that is not dedicated. And they're going to take away $48 million of resources from the general fund in order to create this new municipality. So I don't really care if they go off and segregate themselves, but I do care that we've paid into the fortunes of that portion of town for the last 50 years. And to say that you're going to start a new community and then we owe you money for that community, well, we've been paying a whole lot for a long time and we want our portion to be paid for if you're going to get it.
So,
welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones. As you can see, we're here breaking down the situation going on in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The suburb of St. George decided that they didn't want to live by them colored folk no more. So they're going to pick up not just their ball, but the whole town and move and succeed from Baton Rouge and create their own incorporation and operate as St. George. And of course, you can see it's upsetting a lot of people because resources, that's a lot of the main talking points I've been hearing is resources are going to be further taken from Baton Rouge and given to the people in St. George, who is the wealthier part of Louisiana. I mean, the wealthier part of Baton Rouge, because what I learned is St. George is like that wealthy suburb of Baton Rouge. So as the gentleman said, it started when they wanted to create their own school district to separate because Baton Rouge, I believe, has the poorest school district in Louisiana or the worst school district in Louisiana. So they wanted to separate from that. That didn't work, as the gentleman said. So they said, we're going to create our own city. And here we are. Pat, man, you had that look on your face, man. You had that look on your face when Roland started talking and when they started getting into it, man. What the hell popped in your mind? How you get that look on your face?
I was just like here we go again, another example of Negroes chasing behind white folk. And that's what the look was like. And I understand, you know, when you start talking about resources and things like that, I get it. It can be dicey. And that's why, you know, the look was, the first thought was white flight, Negroes cry.
I saw a video earlier on this subject, and that was the title, like white flight, And white people have been working to move away from us when things aren't going good, and then waiting on it to get worse, and then come back and buying it and moving back in and kicking everybody else out. It's a cycle. But every time white people move away, black people want to move with them. And once again, like you said, the resources is the issue, though, because further resources will be taken out of Baton Rouge because those people, those wealthy people, do command a lot of resources. But like you said, they have all of the populations of people have put resources into Baton Rouge, but these people command the most other resources because they're the wealthiest.
Well, I think for me, it becomes one, I would want to see, I need to see the resource split. I understand this is a predominantly whatever, but that's for me to really have an opinion on the resource piece of it.
Right.
Because I don't want to talk out of turn. But what I will say is, instead of leading with that, what we got was 5 minutes of, oh my God, it's so racist. And that's the part that's aggravating. If the problem is resources, why do we, like, the rest of the whole first 2-3 minutes of what he said doesn't matter. I don't care that about segregation, and I don't care about that. I don't care about none of that. If the problem is the dollars and cents, then let's talk about the dollars and cents. Because what you end up doing is issues begin to be conflated and mixed up and misconstrued. And then now you got a bunch of people all mad about this particular problem, but mad for different reasons. And then when we start looking at answers for these problems, well, now the answers that we're trying to create solve or match up with certain reasons. And when those reasons aren't aligned, you get a whole bunch of other discord and a whole bunch of other disorganization and disunity. And now you got people attacking other people. What is your issue? Is your issue the fact that the resources are going to be taken from the community? Or is your issue the fact that white folk are moving away from black folk? Because you started out talking about how white folk are moving away from black folk, and then you said, but that's okay. If they want to move away from us, that's fine. Well, you just spent 3 minutes saying that that's not okay.
Well, I believe it's a combination of both. And I believe that because just the history of our relationship with white people. But I think it's a large part of, oh no, white people leaving. But then, you say, oh, white people leaving. Well, forget them, let them leave. We don't need them anyway. Then right after you say we don't need them, you remember like, oh shoot, we dependent on them.
Well, yes, and I understand that, and I'm glad you put it that way because I was trying to think of a way to put it. So great, and I'm gonna let PC cook up. But I want to say this: white people have the majority of the wealth in most major cities all over the country.
Yeah.
And white people are not, that wealth is not going to be redistributed. At this juncture, black people, like in my opinion, this is the best thing that could happen to black people in the black city, to have all of the white people up and leave. At that point, I'm understanding that it's going to be difficult. But at that point, your community, y'all are in a position where y'all got to figure it out. Figure it out.
See, you got hope. Well, I know you don't, but that sounds hopeful. But it goes back to what we've said numerous times on this channel. Doing this particular breakdowns is, well, now that goes, like you said, goes back to us, black people having to do work, black people having to take care of self, black people having to be the ones who provide the resources, because it's not like Black America don't have it. Shout out to all the men and women for Kamala and y'all millions of dollars. Shout out to y'all. So it's not like Black America don't have it. Black America, we don't use our wealth properly, and we are dependent upon white people for their resources because we're always looking at the wealth gap, and the wealth gap is supposed to be there, right? But that's not our job to try to catch up with them. It's our job to create what we need to create for ourselves to be self-sufficient. But that's work. Yeah. So PC, man, what are your thoughts, man? St. George, the white folks saying peace on the black people in Baton Rouge, and the black people saying, well, hey, y'all can leave. Hold up. Don't leave. What's your thoughts?
I mean, Pat done cook, fricassee, gumbo out here. You know what I'm saying?
Some,
You know what I'm
some of them
saying?
big nets.
You know what I'm saying? Pat done roasted a whole gator down there. You know what I'm saying? Louisiana swamp. You know what I'm saying?
Silly.
But I mean, when I first saw this, it was the same thing. Like white flight, like the whole book. If you read the book, Sundown Towns, it started off as white flight, and white folk building towns that wanted to be principally all white, and black folk trying to follow them out there. Now I understand the resources part, but at some point, black people have to get to the point of creating resources within themselves. I bet you, and this is, just say what it is. There's not going to be a dry bar in Baton Rouge in the black neighborhood. There's not going to be a club where bottles ain't being tossed and people are talking about this is living. And that might seem like small fries, small potatoes, but every dollar count when it comes to creating the environment that you need to be in. These white folks said they wanted to move their children out of that school district because they didn't feel like it was beneficial for their children.
Right.
I'm not mad at it. I mean, you had I think it was in New Orleans where the fathers decided to come to the schools. Or was it the one? Or was I know it was some part in Louisiana where the fathers decided to show up, change the whole dynamic of the school. That was just one school. Imagine if, and that was just their sweat equity. Imagine if you got the entirety of Baton Rouge, who, I mean, wasn't Jay-Z? Who was just down there with a big bash not too long ago? 50 Cent was down there with a big bash. So we can come together for concerts and parties and things of that nature, but we can't come together to build our communities.
Right.
Right. So, because this is a game of austerity. And this goes back, I'm glad you mentioned the election. I'm glad y'all mentioned the election bread. This goes back to the fact that black people don't practice politics except for maybe 2 to 3 months outside of a major national election. Because they allowed, since they want to talk about being tricked and played out of their position, they allowed for the gerrymandering of the municipality to take place. And they should have been informed because it failed a few years previously. But instead of focusing on the local politics like we always talk about, they went nose deaf or nose blind to what was going on, to the point where in the town, in a city with over 200,000 people, they allowed the threshold to amend the creation of St. George's County to succeed the succession to be the threshold of 15,000 votes. Why was the threshold so small? They already knew they had those votes. They had petitions prior to.
Right.
So black folk ain't taking care of business and then want to cry afterwards and call foul with people who are playing chess while we're playing hopscotch. Like it's always said before, like this is war, economic warfare, environmental warfare, academic warfare. All these things are happening right now in that small municipality, in that small town in Louisiana. But this is just a picture of what's happening. Why aren't the people in those school districts working to make their community safer? Working to make their communities better? Working, I mean, right now, I bet you there's a lot of houses with no laptops but PS5s sitting in the living room somewhere, with $2,000 cell phones in those places. this is what we mean when we start talking about how you have to take care of your own business, because nobody's going to do it for you.
Straight
and
up.
In fact, everybody else practices nationalism but us, and you want to follow those who do. So now when white people decide they want to live on the moon and Mars, black people are going to be complaining that we can't go follow them there too.
Hey, look, according to this article, they're quoting Rick Rojas of the New York Times, and plans have been in place for 10 years, and they're going back to them trying to succeed as far as the school district. So black people in that area should have been getting their stuff together, because it's similar to here in Tallahassee. Like over 10 years ago, they told people here in Tallahassee that, hey, we're going to get rid of this housing project. And everybody was like, oh, no, they're going to get rid of the housing project. What are we going to do? And then everybody went back to partying. And then when it came time for it to happen, they're like, oh, no, it's happening. Well, they told you. Same thing with this. They have been literally working to separate, and the separation has happened. But, you know.
Hold on, Joe. Listen, that happens in damn near every metropolitan area. Philly.
Exactly.
In Philly, there's a section called the Greater Northeast Philly, right? It's the northeast part of the Philly, part of the city. They have been trying to succeed from the heart of the city since I was born. Now, you know what I'm saying? Now you go in that area, it's probably the most segregated part of the city in terms of black and white in those areas. So, but let me make this make sense to you, right? I know it makes sense to you, but I'm gonna make it make sense to. I'm talking to you all watching in the comments. I'm talking to y'all. So, y'all don't think we do this live? Anyway, so back in 1996, ironically, I was talking to my brother George from out of Compton earlier today. In Compton, you had a record producer, owner of a record company by the name of Suge Knight, Marion Suge Knight. In 1996, that company was worth $600 million. Now, fast forward to the day, that's over $1 billion, right? In the town, a black town of 100,000 people, right? That's a pretty big town, pretty big city. Well, it's a pretty big town, small city. Now, you're in that town, you have control of who's the mayor. Your family is in politics, right? Suge Knight's family was in the city council, right? And then all black members of the city council were all black people. Do you want to know what the largest financer, like the largest provider of jobs in that town was in Compton? The freaking school district. At any time, the bank was decommissioned and removed from the city. The police department was decommissioned, and then the state ran, the state started running the police department, start policing the area because there's so much corruption. The bottom line is, every time you've seen a situation like this, and I bring up Suge Knight for a reason, he could have been the catalyst of claiming a major metropolitan area right outside of a larger major metropolitan area where black people could have thrived, where you could have opened up chain supermarkets, where you could have had hospitals, where you could have had you could have actually contributed to the community college there and actually, taught young brothers out there, those gangbangers that was coming out of jail and all that other stuff. You could have taught them skills, marketable skills, and then taught them the trade so that they could have been providers and protectors of their communities. We take these situations and we throw them away. And then we get mad when white folk come in through austerity, because that's what it's called. When they come in, drive the property, they allow the property value to depreciate. Mm-hmm. And then they come in and sweep it up. Mm-hmm. That's austerity. I know people have different names for it. Gentrification, which is war. If you don't know what a gentry is, the root word of gentrification is gentry. It speaks to a warlike, a war. It speaks to a warrior, but it also speaks to wartime activities. So we don't take care of business, and then we get mad when other people are moving and acting like adults in their communities. When they act like they're the ones in charge and they actually practice nation building, we get mad.
Well, you know, they said that the black population in Baton Rouge is the majority of the population, but the white population, like many, probably all areas, but like many areas in the United States, where there's a majority black population, the white people still own the majority of the wealth.
Well, yeah, but that's because we always on Negro shit. Because if and I'm a prime example, right? This is something that was one of the driving forces behind the Independence Day Project, like the Independence Day Project, for us to claim our own independence by building our nation within a nation. So you have a store that's black owned. Now, of course, we don't necessarily, but I'm sorry, we do. We are in position in those cities to remove liens from properties to allow businesses to come in, just like we do when these foreigners come to America. We remove liens, and because of tax treaty laws, give them a lump sum of money and give them they get tax abatements for some places for at least a decade, some places even longer, right? We can still do that in our own cities that are black run, right? Black township that are black run. I didn't get a chance to check out the makeup of the town council or the city council for Baton Rouge, but I bet you there's some black folk on that city council. I would throw money. There's some black folk on the city council. Why can't you ever do something that specifically benefits black people? If you can't do it, then what's the purpose of you telling black people they need to vote for you? Because you can remove those liens, you can institute different policies that allow in these empowerment zones. You can allow black folk to put business in there instead of bringing in outside businesses and entities because they keep padding your pockets. Because the one thing we don't want to talk about is the corruption that seems to follow every damn black politician in the country once they get a leg up. And their lack of commitment to the people that put them in office, and the ignorance of the people who put them in office, because we want to be cheerleaders instead of being constituents.
Yes, well, let's hit some more of this. Roland Martin.
What's interesting here, you also mentioned that you have a black mayor in Baton Rouge, and it's not like, Baton Rouge ain't Atlanta. It's not like there have been black mayors for the last 30 plus years.
No, she is the second black mayor of Baton Rouge. Kip Holden was the first black mayor of Baton Rouge. He was elected in 2004, took office in 2005. So when you put that into perspective, black folks have only been in leadership in this city for under 20 years, okay? So to tell us that the woes or the condition of this city are all the fault of the black leadership, and let's be clear, Roland, the council is majority white, majority conservative in Baton Rouge. It's a 12-member council, 7 white conservatives serve on the Metro Council here in Baton Rouge, and they approve or disapprove of all of the plans of the mayor. And so when we talk about the progress of a community, we have to talk about the inequities in the tale of two cities that have existed for long before Sharon Weston Broome was the mayor of Baton Rouge. We have to talk about how we've invested in South Baton Rouge, the portion of town that is segregating themselves away, and to the demise of North Baton Rouge, actually. And so if we don't have honest conversations about how we got here, then we can't have an honest conversation about how we move forward. And the truth is, when people talk about this unity and why do we talk about race, this is why we talk.
I like that he said that. If we can't have an honest conversation about how we got here, we can't have an honest conversation about how we gonna move forward. I agree with the brother 100%. But also I understand when we talk about the black leadership that got us here, I'm not talking about politicians. I don't care how many black mayors there have been. I don't care about how many black city councils there have been. The power structure in America has been white. it has never been black. But we've still been able to make some progress according to some Negroes, right?
Right.
Well, there's been black leadership doing that. Where are the black community leaders? Where are the black organizers? Where are the black advocates on that front? You don't have to be in a position of political power in order to shape the social and economic landscape of the community. So everything you're saying here, it reeks of white daddy come save me.
Right, because there's no leadership across the board. There's no real leadership in the political seats, in the political spaces, and there's no real communal. Well, I'm not gonna say there's no real one. There's no real. I'll take that back. I'm not gonna say there's any real, but the real people who can lead the community, those aren't the people who the community get behind. Those and we know that because those are the people who are out there trying to do it, trying to scrape and scrabble and make things happen. But the people who get the energy and the resources behind them are the main ones who are against the community.
And I want to say this too. I'm not saying that Baton Rouge is actually like that. I'm saying the way he's presenting it makes it look like that. The way the words that are coming out of his mouth makes the city look like it ain't got no sort of organization amongst the black people there. Like there's just nothing going on. Well, and now these white folk leaving is just going to totally destroy the black community. If things are really as dire as he's making it out to be, then he's a part of that black leadership class that has failed his community. And I'm saying him because he's sitting up here talking to Roland Martin on a national network, on a national program.
Most of the rhetoric that I've heard around this is basically getting at what you were saying is a significant portion of resources will be taken away from the black community of Baton Rouge due to this movement. And what I'm reading right here is saying that they have 86,000 residents and they will be losing like $48 million in annual tax revenue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But so he talked about there was like $400 million in the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these people leave and they're taking $40 million out of that. So they're taking roughly 10% of the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
You still got 90%. Like, what are we doing? Like, and I understand it's a small group of people taking a large percentage. Because 10%, when you're talking about a fraction of the population, I get it. But they're not taking all of it. Y'all still got some resources left. And then even to that, if we're going to say, well, they're taking all of these resources when they leave, well, right now they're the economic base of the city. That's what happens when the economic base. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm going to put words in his mouth, and I could be totally wrong, but I don't put words in his mouth. And I'm going to just say, well, thinking long term, because if there aren't enough people in Baton Rouge and not enough black people in Baton Rouge right now to make sure that if this, the secession has happened. So since this secession has happened, we have the resources to sustain ourselves moving into the future. Because it sounds like it's like, all right, they're going to take the resources and then in the future, because it's not like black people going to operate differently. So since black people going to operate the same way, it's going to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle and dwindle and dwindle as the years go, and they're going to find themselves in the worst position.
So wouldn't that be the reason why you would want to leave?
I mean, right. Right.
And I get that you're I get what you're doing, but I'm just accentuating the point.
No, but you're 100% correct though. Like you kind of making them like they don't want to be there. They're like the conditions in Baton Rouge are not what we want. The school systems aren't what we want. All these things, so we want to do our own thing.
So you're basically asking your economic base to put them and their children in worse situations, so you can continue to live the way you want to live.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I'm not even mad at white people. I'm mad at y'all.
I'm just look. I'm just saying. I'm just
So,
saying.
so in the numbers he said, I want to make sure that because I'm pretty sure I heard what I heard. If the general fund is 400 million and they taking 40 to 50 million, they taking the 10 to 12% of the general fund, you still got 88 to 90% of the general fund. What I don't understand, the problem should be that small percentage of people is generating that much of the economic base of the city. Like what is happening right now is
Nothing.
like, what? So I'm almost positive every black folk in the city don't feel like this guy. But what I'm saying is, to anybody that is like really thinking this through and not just being immediately emotional about it, you're not making a good case for anything in what you're saying.
Yeah, right. Because those people are like, well, I mean, why would we stick around for this?
And you been knew that they wanted to leave, because what PC said is true, what you said is true, what I said earlier kind of alludes to both of that. Every major city where there is a varied demographic of people, the economic base is trying to get away from the rest of them. Every single city. White folk are trying to get away from black folk in every city in America. Yes, I'm using absolutes. Every city in America, white folk are trying to get away from black folk. And black folk know this. Like, we know this. There have been comedians making jokes about it. The joke that Cedric stole from Cat Williams hinted at the fact that when white folk go to the moon, black folk gonna be right behind their asses traveling to the moon. You ain't gonna leave us behind. They know it. We know this. So why is that acceptable?
Hey, well, you know.
The irony is the black folk that are trying to follow the white folk are still trying to leave other black folk, which actually creates more of the dearth in the community. You got a lot of black people who listen. I mean, we want to talk about this last election with all the bourgeois Negroes were putting their best foot forward. What communities do they live in? Which ones do they leave? Which ones do they assert? Which ones do they not care about the benefits or the conditions of the school districts or the municipalities in those areas?
They live in areas like St. George, and their children go to schools in areas that are supported by people in St. George.
I mean, we can name the neighborhoods in the communities around the country. I mean, you get the most famous one we talk about, PG County. And then you talk about, I know there's some communities down near Dallas in Texas, and I know that there's some communities. You got Baldwin Hills up in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. You got, I mean, for all we talk about Chicago, they got neighborhoods where predominantly bourgeois, black, middle class people work. Yeah. I was in Harlem a few days ago. I know that there's some parts in Harlem that are upper crust and bourgeois that black folk own with $1 million brownstones. So we have those all over the country. Here in Philly, we have Mount Airy, East Oak Lane. We have the areas in the city, Uptown, for the most part, is where, so supposedly the upper crust go. University City out there in West Philly. We have those neighborhoods. So the thing is, we want to leave those conditions too. There's not a lot of people that want to come down and actually take part in putting their resources into buckets full of holes.
Yeah.
And we don't want to fix it. And this is the bigger part, is we are comfortable with Negro culture. We're comfortable with it. We don't want to fix it. We mad that you leaving. But I'm not staying nowhere where it's infested with rats, roaches. I'm not staying nowhere where the hygiene and the conditions where people feel comfortable throwing trash on the ground when they're walking past. You have a bag of chips or a soda, and instead of throwing it in the trash or putting it in the bag till you get home, it's on the street.
Well,
I don't want to. I'm tired of confronting people in my neighborhood about that type of stuff. So when are we going to have a real conversation about raising the standards of black folks so we don't care about when white folk leave, that we show them the door, because we're going to ensure and encapsulate a type of culture of proliferation in our communities and so forth. So I'm not going to sit up here crying because a white man decided to leave. I mean, he might as well have been on his knees.
Get to work. Get to work. Get to work,
Right.
people. Get to work.
But what PC said is real too, because like in my community, I'm sitting here planning on building a fence around my yard because every day I can fill up a small garbage bag of trash from people that walk through my yard and leave trash all in my yard. And that's real. Like, and it's a little thing, but it's a big thing.
No, I feel you on that, because I go outside and see trash in my yard and I be mad because I just picked the trash up. No, I feel you. But yeah, all right. Back to rolling.
About race, because people are literally segregating their children, segregating the city, and then taking away resources from our community. And to be clear, 50 years ago, when black people were becoming the majority or growing in population in Baton Rouge, they changed us to a consolidated form of government, which was we won't just have a city, we'll have a city and a county. So Mayor Broom is the mayor of the city of Baton Rouge and the parish president of the parish of East Baton Rouge. And so we have a council that is convened that represents the entirety of the parish, but white communities continue to segregate themselves off when they realize that black leadership is going to be in charge for the future of this community.
I saw there was a state representative who's looking.
Well, why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they do that? Why would they, if they're already looking at the conditions of where Baton Rouge is now, and the majority of black people, how black people are existing, how black people living, and that could be anywhere in the country as well. But why wouldn't they want to do that? Why would
the passion that he is speaking with regards to segregation, and even right there on the prompt on the screen, new predominantly white city proud segregation concerns.
Right.
This ain't about resources.
Right.
They throwing that out there to kind of try to make people that are going to call out what we're calling out look crazy. This ain't about resources.
Well, resources is a byproduct of this, but it's not the main catalyst.
Well, is the white the 50%, 56% of Baton Rouge is black, right? But 80% of the school district is black students, because the white parents were homeschooling their children. These people who were homeschooling their children were putting money into a school district they weren't using.
Right.
Now, so when they start talking about resources, they were squandering their resources by putting it into a school district that they weren't using, and that was still failing. And some of their complaints are valid. You have a superintendent making 6 figures with a failing school district.
Right.
You have the conditions are falling apart around it. And I hate situations like this because it makes it seem like we're defending white folk, and we're not. We're speaking to the incompetence of the black folk that are down there and their disregard for wanting to be responsible and accountable for the conditions of the community. Oh, we don't blame us for how the city got like that. But y'all were living there.
Hey, so I want to ask a single parent. Pat, how hard is it to teach your children some of the basics of education and be active in their life to support them educationally or academically? How difficult is that as a single? Because you was a single father of 3 with multiple jobs. So how difficult was that for you to, or how did you make the effort or make it happen to make sure that you pour into your children academically?
It's not difficult at all when you want to do it. When your children are a priority, it's not difficult. Ain't the word, right? Is it tiring and time consuming? Yes. But is it hard? No. But you set your priorities. And as a man, and this is something that I will highlight this because we do see this with single fathers. Men are able to set priorities and live by those priorities. If I say my children are a priority, my children are a priority, and I'm going to move accordingly. So I'm going to be involved in the school. And even if the school system is failing, I'm going to be directly involved in my children's education. We used to have those Saturday schools where I would put on a suit, my boys would put on a suit, and we would talk about etiquette, and we would talk about what it means to be men, and we would talk about all of these other things. And we were doing those things. And even now that they're all young men, we're still having those conversations where I'm still talking to them and educating them and exposing them to resources and things of that nature. It's not hard. It's time consuming. But if you set your children as a real priority, then you make that a priority. And that's another problem we have as a community is that our children aren't a priority.
That's why I asked what I asked, because basically we want them to educate our children, and there's no way that so many Black kids should be behind academically if the parents and the adults who are around them in their communities, in their neighborhoods, are actually pouring into them. They shouldn't be behind.
No, but go ahead, PC.
No, go ahead, finish.
It's because it's frustrating because and PC, you slam dunk that because I was throwing it up and I was like, I'm just self alley later. But you was like, nah, Pat, I got it. When you went in on the resources, and that was beautiful because that's a real, he keeps saying the city poured into that community to make it what it was.
Right.
They, according to what you're saying, they are the economic base for the community. They poured into themselves to make themselves what they are.
Yeah, and they poured the. I would say, because I get what he trying to say, and I get what he's trying. You're not wrong, because he like we put some money in here too, so we should have a say in what's going on because we put some money in here too. Yeah, but you put like 25 cents into the dollar.
Right, and you get to keep all. And to that analogy, all I'm asking for is 10 cents out of the dollar that you got. I'm taking my 10 cents. Yeah, but it's only one of y'all, and it's 24 of us. Yeah, but like, I mean, I could take more than 10 cents if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I'm only asking for 10 cents. You can keep the rest and do whatever you want to with it. But I really want to drive that point home. It's not like they took all of your money and invested it into themselves and didn't put any money on the table. They took their money and invested it into themselves. Yes, they took some of your money too. I'm not discounting that, and invested it into themselves. But you also had access to your money.
See, and that's the difference between taking money and wealth as well. So,
well, here's the thing, and this is what we talk about, and Dr. Claude Anderson always say, Black people seem to be abhorred to. I'm trying to say the word, goddamn. Abhorred to creating our own wealth. Money coming in our community. We have a F that N-word mentality when it comes to building. We have a real sickness when it comes to working with each other. We'll pour our money into all other things, but when it comes time that somebody is going to, put together a project, we want to know where every nickel is going. Then all of a sudden we want to be astute accountants of the budget for what's happening. Some people don't even put any bread into it to figure out what's going on. They just want to be outside critics. So the mentality has to change for those people. Being poor is one thing. Being broke is something totally different. Right. Poor is speaking to your access to wealth, resource, and so forth. Being broke is a mindset, and we have a lot of broken people when it comes to trying to work together, build together, envious because now we also want to be charlatans. We want to be the star. Like we talk about the savior complex and we keep going into it, but the savior complex is also aligned with somebody wanting to be the hero. Somebody wanting to be the next Martin Luther King, Malcolm, and somebody wanting to see their name in the big lights on Broadway somewhere. This is, so the ego that comes into play with a lot of this is one of the biggest reasons why we don't build. And then on top of that, we seem to always find the hustlers. We seem to find we find the Tiffany Henyards of the world and put them in position to lead. This is one of the biggest problems and causes in regards to why the situation falls apart, because people want to get in and I'm putting all my on, it's like, but you're responsible for the municipality that's predominantly black that trusted you to be in a position to help carry them on to the future. And like Pat said, this ain't even just about politics, because community leaders ain't just politicians. You got business leaders. I bet you if you go through Baton Rouge, you got black folk who've had businesses down there for over 50 years in some places. And why have they not been able to work together to be able to build a coalition so they can improve on it? Why have the community not supported those businesses? And it's because, I don't like the way they look. Or, we find the pettiest reasons not to support it.
Well,
and that's one of the, I'll land my plane because I know you got some more of this video to watch.
But this is a direct outcome of black people refusing to work together. So yeah, I just want to say that.
And I want to say this before you keep going, and it's going to be quick. I understand where the argument is coming from of they're taking our resources and boom, boom, boom. And I really want to emphasize this. What I'm saying is 2PFJ, all right? And that's what I've been saying of late. And it stands for Tupac from Juice. All right? That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. I don't care. That is not what the issue is, because that is an issue that we can't control. So let's focus on what we can control.
Right. But the bigger issue in that is that has never happened. Because black people never really cared about taking care of what we can control. I ain't gonna say never, but we don't care about taking care of what we can control because we've been on autopilot for so long.
Yeah, but because you're right, it did happen, but it happened primarily due to segregation. You built the Black Wall Streets because of segregation. Black people were forced to spend money with each other. That's when you had the greatest wealth building of black capital in this country. Black people were actually forced. Now these Negroes don't want to be. It's like herding cats. Like herding cats. Don't tell me what to do with my money. Get your hand out my pocket. You know what I'm saying? I hate when people be watching my pockets. Or you don't even have to be talking about your pockets. You can talk about somebody else's. I hate when y'all be watching, clocking people's pockets and this and the other. Man, listen. Either y'all want to win or you don't. But stop complaining about how things are, because all you're doing is making a mockery out of something. You want you want these Negroes that want to be heard. But guess what? None of the people living give a damn. None of the people listening give a damn about what you're saying. I think the Louisiana Supreme Court ruled that they ruled that it was constitutional and that the St. George is going to be a place.
Yep, it's happening. If it ain't already happening, it's happening.
Right. So it's
now
build your own. Build your own.
But at this point, my bad.
No, go ahead.
Because at this point, complaining isn't going to do anything. I know. We're going to do that.
You want them to come back?
Well, I mean, because remember, like the bat signal has been deployed, and we had to go put on our superhero outfit and go get a bullhorn so we can actually be really, really heard this time, because the other times they ain't hear us, and go and No, use our superpower of talking junk.
Well, the only weapon on the utility belt is that megaphone. That's the only weapon on this utility belt.
And we got a bunch of extra mans. So our resilience give us a whole bunch of extra mans. So we'll keep coming back, but trying to be loud. So yeah, here we go.
To have this Supreme Court decision reheard or try to have them do it again?
President of the City Council, Lamont Cole, Mayor Pro Tem Lamont Cole, is challenging to have them rehear it. There are certain aspects that the justices did not consider. One of the things the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who is a conservative, wrote a dissenting opinion and said that this was a decision masquerading as a ruse of a decision, and said that that was a deficient argument put forth because they couldn't even prove that they were going to pay for the services of the city. They have proposed that it's going to cost them $47 million to run a city of 80,000 people, and they're going to privatize every aspect of the services of the city. They don't even have a plan for policing, Roland. They plan to just take the sheriff's department and just give them $4 million and hope that that covers the bill.
So what?
They don't need a bunch of sheriffs. They ain't trying to rob. They ain't doing drive-bys.
Who cares how they choose to run what they run? So what?
Oh my God. This, you know what, man?
Yeah.
This is wild.
Questions from our panel. Greg Carr.
Thank you, Roland. It's always good to see you, brother Chambers. The way I understand it, and I know you know this history better than all of us, these white boys have done this earlier, I guess, with Central, is it, outside of Baton Rouge, and I'm from Nashville, so I remember how they went municipal: Nashville, Davidson County, Atlanta, Fulton County, Jefferson County, Birmingham. My question is about how, what's the impact of us not getting involved in the political process? I know you've been doing that. You know, we all came to know you probably outside of Louisiana when you jumped on Connie there at the school board meeting. You know, what is it going to take for our people to understand? I remember the comedian Paul Mooney once said, you know, they want to move away from us now, but during slavery and Jim Crow, they wanted us all up under them in their beds, in their bedrooms, and the kitchens. But now that that's over, they want to get away. What is it going to take to trigger some kind of resurgence in our consciousness to get involved in what has been a long-term strategy for these kind of racists, which is to get away from us as far as possible?
You know, I think that.
Go ahead, Pat. You look like you want to say something.
Nah, I think PC had the expression first, but that question was.
He started off good.
No, and shout out to Baba, Greg Carr. I know Baba. He's down there in Howard University. But you know, and I think he was trying. He really like softened the landing a little bit for my man because I'm not going to speak too much on it, but I agree with the first part. Definitely the first part of what Bob was saying. We've been saying it the whole. When is the collective consciousness of Black people going to get their shit together? I'm just doing the translation.
Okay, that's a different translation. That's a different question translation than the one that was in my head. And I understand you being respectful. What I heard was, when are Black people gonna figure out how to maneuver in such a way that we can stay close to white
how
folk?
We can keep the white folk from running from us? That's what I heard. What can we do to keep these white folk close to us? That's what I heard too.
And that's where I was like, wait, what? I know when he said the political piece, I saw PC put his hand up because you know that train is never late. It was right on target.
Yeah.
But the question, I was like, whoa, that's a loaded question. That's not the
question. And that might be one of the problems with Black America, because if he's an elder and a leader and he's asking that question, that might be one of our issues. I know we're trying to be respectful, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but just being real.
Well, no, like I think we can, because I try not to disrespect anybody now.
Right.
I do. Now there were times in the past where I was disrespectful. I apologize for that.
I just try to be truthful.
I will challenge ideas and thoughts that don't make sense. And so that question is kind of like if I'm interpreting that question correctly, and the question is, how do we keep white folk from running away from us?
Right.
I don't really know if that's a great question. That ain't the question that I don't really want to engage with that question. My better question would be, how do we position ourselves to the place that we don't care what they're doing?
That's what I thought it was going. I thought it was going to say, how do we put ourselves in a better position to make sure we have the resources we need?
Because I agree with PC. The first half of that I agree with, because I agree with PC. We've seen this. It's a long-term strategy. Boom, boom, boom. I'm with you.
Do we need to run it back?
What is it? We might need to run it back, because maybe me and you are messed up, Joe.
No. Yeah, run it back, though. Yeah, run it back a little bit. Yeah.
All right.
They went municipal: Nashville, Davidson County, Atlanta, Fulton County, Jefferson County, Birmingham. My question is about how, what's the impact of us not getting involved in the political process? I know you've been doing that. You know, we all came to know you probably outside of Louisiana when you jumped on Connie there at the school board meeting. You know, what is it going to take for our people to understand? I remember the comedian Paul Mooney once said, you know, they want to move away from us now, but during slavery and Jim Crow, they wanted us all up under them in their beds, in their bedrooms, and the kitchens. But now that that's over, they want to get away. What is it going to take to trigger some kind of resurgence in our consciousness to get involved in what has been a long-term strategy for these kind of racists, which is to get away from us as far as possible?
Yeah, you know, I heard what I heard, PC. Yeah.
All right. It felt like an incomplete thought, though. I don't know. All right. Yeah.
I got you.
Because I heard it, but the second time around, I heard the landing. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but we have to be as honest as possible, you know. And yeah. But
I tip my hat to you, brothers, because I think I was celebrating a little bit too soon. So
we both were, and I was like, Well, hold on. Let's listen a little bit more. Though.
All right.
I think that some of us had hoped that some people were better than they were, and the realities of today are making people have a wake-up call. I hope, that is my hope, that being able to see things that you and I and Roland and others have been talking about for years play out in real time, I think is a clarion call that many people are going to say, I didn't think they would go this far. They will go this far and further. They want to take as many rights from you as possible. Just today, there was a conversation.
See, now you're shifting the goalpost, because this has nothing to do with taking rights. This is about them wanting to exist in their own space away from you.
Yeah, they playing an interesting word game here, because he did it too. The first half of what he said, I can agree with. Like, you know, the way that they're booming, but somewhere in the thought process, they making that left at Albuquerque, and I'm like, you
because he's about to go. Let me just a little more. Then keep your thought, but just a little more. Because hear what he's about to say. Where he's about to go left, moving the goalpost.
About a bill in the state legislature in Louisiana that will make it a crime to have an appeal. That if you have an abortion pill, they're going to make it a controlled substance.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Yeah, he went all the way left. He made a hard right at Albuquerque.
It went from resources to rights. From white people don't leave us, white people taking resources, to now white people taking our rights.
Well, because
the right to
because he said, because he talked about hoping that people would see and open their eyes and recognize, and I'm like, oh yeah, hey, I agree with all of that. And then, so essentially summarizing what just happened in this exchange, Black people need to get involved in the political process so that white people won't be able to leave us.
Yeah. No. You summed it up right. You summed it up right. This is me eating crow. You summed it up right. Hey, I can acknowledge when I misstepped, and damn it, man, I stepped in it. Yeah, and to further the yeah, that's all I really can say. I'm kind of disappointed with this exchange.
I
But
don't know what, like, so we need to get involved politically, not so that we can do for ourselves or enhance our own position, but so that we can prevent them. Yes, I love that. Good job, Pete. So that we can handcuff ourselves to them.
Yeah, and they can never leave us because we need them. Basically, we need you all for our survival, so y'all can't go nowhere.
And the birth control conversation has no place here. Now, I agree. It's a wonderful conversation. I think we should have it. I do. I love talking about birth control because I feel like men's rights are never really appropriately measured in that conversation. But that conversation has nothing to do with what's happening here.
Right. Nothing. Because it's not about rights. It's not about a removal of rights. It's more about your original complaint was the removal of a population and them taking their resources with them.
No, this is about an exertion of rights, an assertion of rights.
Right.
This is not, nobody's taking rights. They are administering their capacity to express their rights.
As a group of people with power.
Yeah. And I don't agree with none of that. In terms of this whole handcuffing situation, I don't agree with none of that. I just have to, I'm just be standing on it. I'm not, let them go and build your own. You want to become politically active and learning how to rescue resources like they just did, and to build your own community and so forth. So when they start to build out and they start to create these counties and so forth, like I can remember, y'all remember this when we first started talking. We started talking about actually finding a region and incorporating it as a township for ourselves. Remember those conversations we used to have?
Yes, I do. Yes, we do.
Right. And so we were actually looking at places around the country to try to incorporate townships for ourselves.
I was thinking about this earlier.
So why in the hell would we want to be? Our biggest concern was moving too close to white folk and having them in the position where they could sabotage us, where they could rosewood us. That was our biggest concern. We wasn't talking about being tethered to them. We weren't talking about that. So,
hey man, in this situation, they're like, here, take it. Here, we don't want it, take it, and we like, no.
Oh man, next time I see Bob, I'm gonna bring this up because I need clarity.
Yeah.
When you get it, please bring it back.
Yeah,
hopefully I can record it. Yeah, we need clarity.
We pretty much got the gist of what they're talking about, so we don't need to go through the whole video like that because we got the gist. But it's a situation of, okay, black folk, what you gonna do? The ball in your court. Now the court is raggedy. The goals ain't got no rims. If it got a rim, it ain't got no backboard. It ain't got no nets. It's cracks all in the concrete on the court. The balls are flat, but you got people. And y'all could choose to make this court better, or you could choose to keep just complaining about it, because not Dr. Carr, but the other guy, he used that word moral. The morals. This ain't a moral issue to them. This is a livelihood issue. They like, we don't want to live next to y'all because we want to improve our quality of life in our own area.
No, it is moral though. Survival and protection of your nation by any means necessary is the first stance of morality. and if you don't see it the same way, that means that their moral compass is more focused on their survival than yours is on your survival.
Right.
Because this whole kumbaya, we want to be with y'all, or don't leave us. That thing is way overplayed. It's past. It's way. Black people are about to end up in a museum. Like the semblance of who we are is going to be recorded, and it's going to be like the Neanderthal, like they once too walked the earth. And
Black American.
Listen, they actually have a movie where that happened. So remember the movie with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone? It was a
Demolition Man.
Demolition Man.
Remember when they went to the museum when Wesley Snipes needed to go find the guns? If they would have put people in that place where they were actually fighting over the car and stuff, those people would have been black. In that future, how many black people did you see in that future? In San Andreas County or San Angeles County?
Definitely wasn't no black culture in that city.
Right, except for in the sewer.
Yeah,
that wasn't black, that was just poor.
Nah, yeah, that was poverty.
Right. So this stuff is not like it's not too far-fetched. Shoot. Nah. They come out with a designer pathogen, and then we already know they've been working on them. Yeah. That's all it'll take.
It just be ironic people who talk about black people do talk about doing for self and self-sufficiency. We're not serious about it. The majority of us are not serious about it, but it's just ironic that we'll talk about white people taking stuff from us and us not being able to do for self. And we'll gloat about Black Wall Street. Well, we had Black Wall Street. And of course, it seems like most black people only know about Tulsa. So they just talk about Black Wall Street, Black Wall Street, Black Wall Street, Black Wall Street. I mean, here's the foundation for a Black Wall Street, another Black Wall Street. Baton Rouge could be transformed if the people in Baton Rouge choose to transform it.
Yeah, we all got choices to make, don't we?
So the onus, just like here in Tallahassee, look, the south side of Tallahassee could be better if the black people here in Tallahassee chose to make it better. Just like we had 10 years to know that South City was going to be torn down and the majority of the population is going to be kicked out. Pat and I, we had our efforts on the ground here in Tallahassee trying to do things, but, we start, and then when we look up, we the only ones left. It's like a handful of, if we start with 20 people, it may be 2 left. Right. So it's people talk about revitalizing the communities. People talk about making the community better. But when it really comes to the work and the sacrifice that it takes to make your community better, there ain't a lot of real ones out there. And there's a lot of people who pose as real ones. There's a lot of people who talk about the stuff, or they'll be involved on the more popular aspects, or the aspects that make it seem like they're doing real things for the community. And then you look up, they're always surrounded by white people.
There's a lot of Clarence Weatherspoons out there.
Man, there's a lot of names.
Well, Clarence Weatherspoon, he was a power forward that came in to replace Charles Barkley at 6.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because he was 6'6", good player, but when he would get in the paint, he would do a lot of pump faking.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of pump faking going on in our community, bro.
Man, look at here. Look at here. A lot of pump faking. But once again, though, also goes back to faulty black leadership and faulty black followership and the incompetence or the arrested development of Black America to continue to choose to follow incompetent leaders. If you want to be a scammer and you're looking for people to scam Black Americans, because they'll fall for it every time. And you need to have a preacher's cadence if you really want to scam them, and you'll get them. But hey, man, this is reality came true. We've been saying it. We're not the first ones to say it. We're not gonna be the last one to say it. Either get your stuff together or get left behind. They literally got left behind in Baton Rouge. They literally got left behind. Black America, get your stuff together or get left behind, because this stuff is going to continue to happen more and more and more and more and more around the country. FetLifeStation.com, go check it out. FetLifeStation.com, thepax.org, a lot of great information. thepax.org, ontheshoulders1.com, check that out. ontheshoulders1.com. All the ways to support us is in the description. Me, Kim, appreciate you. Thank you for all of your support. All the patrons, all the new patrons, all the old patrons, everybody who's supporting On the Shoulders of Giants. Please continue to support us. Hit that like bell, because I think YouTube is shadow banning right now because they tripping. So hit that like bell, make sure we get these views up, and we see y'all on the other side.